Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming, and specifically the Gentleman's Guide to Curseborne. This video is made in response to a subscriber of this channel and also a very generous backer of the Buried Treasures World Below crowdfunder campaign. Thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate the support. And as I said, if you backed that campaign for physical copies of the Delver's Guide and Secrets of Calm and Chaos, you can get in touch with me and request a video. Now, Peter requested a video regarding the Curseborne RPG, Onyx Path's new role-playing game of urban horror, and specifically wanting to know that some of the details, some of the secrets of Junction City, a setting I frequently use for my Curseborne games. Now, some of you may be wondering, what is Junction City? Where is Junction City? Who is Junction City? How is Junction City? Well, Junction City, I don't think I reference it in the Curseborne core book. I don't think I do. Though the example locations in the story guide chapter that I wrote, these various city locations, the hospitals, the airports, the skyscrapers, the inner city, the high schools, and so on, those are all Junction City locations. Those are locations I use in my games or have used in my games, and so I wrote them either for the book and I've used them in my games subsequently, or vice versa. And the location of Junction City is basically in the middle of Iowa, of all states. And as the name implies, it is on a junction. It is split between Minneapolis in the north, Missouri in the south, Illinois and Wisconsin to the east, and Nebraska to the west. And admittedly, in the real world, that's basically Des Moines. But who wants to set a game in Des Moines? Now, you may be wondering, why would you set a game in Iowa to begin with? Well, Iowa, a lot like Nebraska, a lot like most of the Midwest, especially the further west you go, is one of those states where between your urban centers and the next urban center, there's a great deal of nothing. Iowa is a particular standout in this regard. And by nothing, I don't mean barren wasteland, though that's there too. I mean, you've got fields, you've got forests, you've got hills, you've got mountains, you've got lakes, you've got rivers. You have got an awful lot of wilderness. And that means, for Junction City, that I'm able to play around with a setting that pairs the folkloric and remote with urban horror. The idea being that Junction City, which can be found north of Des Moines in my world, was an old machine city, a city that was paired between timber and steel, and for a good while was thriving, but like many of these Midwest bastions, has fallen on harder times in recent years. These days, Junction City styles itself as a cultural capital of the United States, despite the frankly very steelworker name that it possesses, and it is trying to revitalize itself as an entertainment center. In the same way that Atlanta, so the state of Georgia, provides subsidies to companies that want to film there, Iowa has been doing the same for anyone who wants to film, record music, or the like in Junction City. It's a somewhat faltering effort, drawing all kinds of failures, cancelled comedians, movie studios that have seen better days out of the woodwork to hang up their shingle in Junction City. So what that means is everything you see there, even the most renovated parts, the electric mile of Junction City, where all the stores, all the businesses are abuzz with light, with neon, with electricity, everything still has that patina of age, of decrepitude, of general malaise, that it's a second best city. No one of any value, no one of any worth, no company that's really trying to make it is going to set up in Junction City. So you've got the old standards of steel and timber just hanging on by their fingertips, an increasingly jaded population of blue-collar workers who hope against hope that they can revitalize their industries and therefore their jobs, and maybe force their children to follow in their footsteps, combined with an influx of new blood who are jaded within weeks of arrival. But such are the terms of setting up businesses in Junction City. See, this is where my mind goes when I'm setting up a city as a setting. I'm thinking, what is the hook? What keeps people there? I make it incredibly bureaucratic. Contracts, pacts, and this is where the whole liminal side of it, the supernatural side of it comes in. You set up a contract that says you're going to take the funding from the state of Iowa and the city of Junction City to run your business. You find within about 2 months that it is going to be uphill, to put it mildly, draining, to be quite honest, and yet you are locked into that pact for at least 2 years. Now, you could cut your losses and leave with less than you started, but most people aren't prepared to do that. Most people who make these investments are relying on the investment paying off, so they sink themselves into it and they become part of the fabric of Junction City itself. A constantly trying, wheels spinning city that never seems to move on. It's just caught in that permanently liminal haze, and that is what Junction City is. Junction City is a liminal city. It is a city that unless you have reason to stop, you're not going to stop. Tourists aren't visiting Junction City despite its efforts to attract them. It has an airport, but most of the people flying in and out are residents of Junction City who are testing the waters of getting away and then realizing they're missing the tapestry that they're used to, the tapestry of suburbia, to use a cult phrase. So it has that isolated feel, as I say, that a state like Iowa is particularly good at lending. Now, again, you might say, well, Des Moines is basically what you're describing. Hell, I mean, you could make it in a more geographically interesting state by going for Michigan and saying you're playing in Detroit. You could go for somewhere all farms and go for Nebraska. But again, Iowa is in that middle ground. It is the heartland of America. Except this heart isn't beating, it's twitching, and the pacemaker has started working erratically at best. In terms of the supernatural side of Junction City, my history of it is that for the longest time it was under the dominion of Hungary. So we had heirs and we had Iscariots who were vying for dominance in Junction City for a long, long time. Now, the heirs don't have much love for Junction City, though they keep pouring their money into it because they believe there is something of incredible value here. They think that you need to hold a post, you need to stand a post, you need to double down on your investment, even if it isn't paying off immediately. And so, despite all evidence to the contrary, the heirs are fangs deep in Junction City. They're not letting go of it, even though that carcass has long since started rotting. The Iscariots came at it from a very different perspective. You see, the Iscariots were always of the belief that Junction City needed redeeming, that it wasn't that the city needed preservation, that it would flourish in its current form, which is what the heirs certainly seem to believe. It's that it possesses a deep rot at its heart, at its core, beneath the subway, and it has a very limited subway in Junction City, but it does have one. There is something down there, not just liminal, but outsiderish, maybe even fey, that is draining the life from this city, that is making everybody feel so low and run down and constantly caught in loops of their own behavior. The Iscariots called it the phantasmal city, in that most ghosts, most phantasms that aren't the dead, get caught in loops of behavior. They haunt the same places, they say the same things, they carry out the same actions because that's what a lot of ghosts do. And what the Iscariots were able to witness was that people, the living, were doing the exact same thing. Even some accursed were doing the exact same thing. Not to some automaton-like degree, but almost in the same way that a victim of abuse would keep going back to their partner despite the fists and belts waiting for them. And so the Iscariots tried their best to redeem the city. They recruited more than a handful of crews to start delving down into the depths of the city to find out what exactly was draining all of the energy, hope, and vitality out of the city's inhabitants. And as so often happens in storied histories, very few of those accursed who went down there ever returned. Some did, though, again, as we like in these stories, they came back changed, certainly less healthy, claiming to have seen things, sensed things, tasted things that they shouldn't have, and wanting to go back down so that they could taste them again. Now, the Iscariots considered these people violated. If you like, you could compare them, if you're a World Below player, to the Surface Touched, except the other way round. And so the heirs, using the Iscariots' fall from grace, because the various families of the accursed who were lost or went mad by their actions, basically pointed at the Iscariots and said, you funded this. You filled them with these dreams that you'd be able to make Junction City alive again, that you'd be able to eradicate or banish the outsiders lurking beneath us, and you are the ones who got them killed, got them taken, got them driven insane. And with the permission of practically every other family, not all, but almost all the other families in Junction City, the heirs launched a massive operation to scourge the city of Iscariots completely. To this day, you will not find an Iscariot of influence in Junction City. It's very difficult for accursed to limit other accursed from showing up of any given family, but the rule is Iscariots are not permitted any kind of role where they can command any crew or indeed any independent accursed from operating as they wish. And so the heirs have control, and they're enjoying that stagnation because it means they can get what they want with very little difficulty. Heirs find it reasonably challenging in most cities, especially when there's an active or attentive police force, neighborhood watch programs, community operations, things like that, to feast on their chosen sustenance, human hearts. And yet in Junction City, that's actually a pretty easy get. They don't have to try too hard because murders are swept under the rug. Murderers are sometimes even celebrated rather than vilified, as is the case in the infamous musical that has been made about the La Tendresse killer, who targeted a number of women around the state of Iowa and beyond, and was finally brought to justice until he escaped from the prison van taking him away from Junction City and was never seen again. You can find out more about the La Tendresse brood in the Curseborne book of the same name. That book is available on Drive-Thru RPG. I'll link it below if I remember. But yes, there are a number of secrets, a number of hooks, urban legends, and so on that are particularly prevalent in Junction City. Everything from the theatre district. There's a whole load of live music, live arts, stages, and places that are dusty and, as mentioned, decrepit because for all Junction City's desire to make a centre of culture, they aren't reaching out to the young people in the city and getting them to go there, and the aged-out population who might, they don't rate these performances much. So you've got people performing plays to pathetic audiences that are filled up more with accursed. These places are becoming loopholes and liminalities that accursed frequent because they know that no mortals, no mundanes are going to interfere with their business there. There was even talk that there was an outsider that was infesting a boxing ring, an arena that housed a boxing match at one point and would basically feed on the blood of the boxers and compel them to increasing violence during the matches, more so than you usually get in boxing. You know, they were trying to kill each other at this outsider's behest. The steel and timber industries, which could have worked together in many ways. There's a lot of companies, but the largest one is the Rian steel magnates. They had the opportunity of working together to uplift both companies to see whether they could cross train people. It's all very mundane stuff, but they decided division was the better course, and they have constantly tried to sabotage each other, sometimes to lethal effect. Wrecking and sabotage is an all too common thing in Junction City's blue collar industries, with the old iron spike in the machinery occasionally being found, resulting in maimings, deaths, factory shutdowns, and of course, even more lost money, and with it, lost lives and livelihoods. The political layout of Junction City from a mortal perspective is thoroughly Republican and thoroughly staid. The person in charge is very much in the MAGA camp. You don't have to play with this kind of thing if you don't want to, but for me, it helps set a scene of someone who, no, I'm not going to embrace change, embrace progress. Progress is a filthy word. Progress is the kind of thing that the wokes and the libs want us to do. We want Junction City as it always has been. We want to re-embrace our tradition, except without any real plans on how to do so, beyond blaming that guy over there or blaming these people over here. There is a sizable immigrant population in Junction City despite that, and those immigrants vote Republican because they were promised all kinds of opportunities if they came here and helped settle the newly built suburbs, that in a Chinese megacity fashion, Iowa, that wealthy state, poured a lot of money into artificially building up Junction City to attract new people, but without creating the jobs to integrate them. And so it's quite balkanized around the edges of Junction City. You will have your Chinese American communities, your Latin American communities, an entire cornucopia, a diaspora, if you will, of Muslim populations around. And of course, within the heart of the city, you've also got the inner city, where all of the wealth has been drained away and there is no aid being offered to the people who live there. Despite that apparent poverty that everyone is aware of and everyone judges, there is also a thin line of extreme wealth, because someone is scooping that cream off the top every single day. And they're the same people who have been for years and years and years, starting with the heirs and then filtering out to the heirs' friends and nephews and nieces and children and grandchildren. So there's a lot of corruption at play in Junction City. Is it Gotham? No. I don't make it so artificially bleak that it could house the sort of maniacs that Gotham City does, but it does very much bear the hallmarks of a city that is declined, not even declining, it has declined, and it's being kept alive through artificial means. It's crueler to keep it alive at this point, and yet they continue to do so because to do otherwise would be to admit failure, and nobody wants that on their on their sheet, do they? So Junction City is this place where plenty of people arrive with hope, and the hope is crushed out of them. The accursed within it are likewise trapped, but they feel the insidious effect that permeates this city far more acutely than the mortals, who just kind of ease their way into it and see it as normal. Therefore, the accursed are constantly trying to adjust things, improve things, or worsen things so they can exploit the situation for themselves. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of accursed here that see Junction City as a prize, where feeding stock is easy to find, where territories are very easy to claim. The sheer number of liminalities that are accessible via Junction City is remarkable, because the fabric between the mundane world and the outside is very, very thin in every place where a tragedy has taken place and no one ever reported it, where families succumb to poverty and extremes at the end of the neighborhood, where that preacher in that church claimed that the rapture was here, that's why we're all suffering now, it's the judgment day, it's time to all give yourselves up, and wouldn't you know it, they all disappeared and no one noticed for 2 weeks. Only their shoes were left behind. It was a remarkable thing. There's all kinds of things that have taken place in Junction City like that. And as I run my games there, of course, that fabric gets thicker and thicker. The tapestry gets larger and larger and more complex. But there's your answer, Peter. That is what Junction City looks like. Now, I know you have asked for another video, which is to go into some of the crannies, the darker secrets, the nooks of Junction City, and we will do that in another video that will be coming up. But until then, let me know about the cities you are setting your Curseborne games in. I would love to hear about them. And until then, I will be seeing you.